right, here we go. All right, I want to welcome everybody to creating our own interactive e-learning with Adobe Captivate. I don't work for Adobe Captivate. I'm just a homeschool mom, and this is our 20th year of homeschooling. And I do teach online with Virtual Homeschool Group. Virtual Homeschool Group is just a bunch of us that have all gotten together to create an online course co-op so we can offer free courses to other homeschool families. So if you have questions about Virtual Homeschool Group, when we get to the end, I'll fill you in on some of the details there. First of all, though, I want to get a little chance to get to know you. Looks like everyone's gotten a lot of experience now with how this works. I see lots of pointers already up there. So I'll put mine in there. I'm in Southwest Arkansas, so right about there, in the hot summertime. So those of you that live in the southern states are probably thinking, yeah, I can understand that one. There we go. All right, had a chance to put it. See, we've got somebody from the Ukraine. Great. Well, what time of the morning is it for you? Because I know it's got to be, you're probably having to stay up late or you're up early, one or the other. Upstate South Carolina, anywhere near Greenville? Oh, we've lived in Southwest Arkansas now for, I guess, maybe about 15 years. But before that, we lived in the Greenville area. Miss that place. Oh, that's such a beautiful area, so close to the mountains. Oh, excellent. I'm glad it's a little bit cooler there for you. Okay, excellent. Yeah, been through Spartanburg lots of times. All right. Well, this is a great way to get to know everybody. And hopefully as we go through, it won't be just limited to the map. I'd like to learn more of you as we hit each of these different slides as we go through. So let me go ahead and I'll move us forward a little bit. Now, I figure considering the name that we've got on this session, either you or your kids are creators when it comes to learning and doing. It's not, you might have kids that have a real antipathy to workbooks and textbooks. They would much rather get on the internet and learn about it or get a real book out of the library and learn it, much more so than to grab up a textbook and go, oh, dry learning. Because a lot of times textbooks really are pretty dry. And that's definitely descriptive of my kids. My kids, I've 4, but 3 of them are already grown. I just have one last one left. We've got a 12-year-old left to go. And all of my kids were extremely out there on the creative side. Matter of fact, other than math, which we love Saxon, but other than math, we didn't use a textbook at all until my oldest hit high school. And all I did was I just researched like crazy. What are the objectives? What do they need to know? And I got a hold of the best resources I could find. I found textbooks just be a little too boring for the most part. So that's pretty much how we did it. And mostly even in high school, I was ready to go all the way through high school without textbooks as well. Because my kids had learned how to research. They'd learned how, we had done project types of, our entire homeschooling years was all unit studies and projects. And during the summer, the kids had to design their own projects, large ones. Oh, for instance, each of my kids, except for my 12-year-old, he hasn't quite done it yet. Each of my kids, even as young as 11 and 12, all spent at least one summer where they wanted to build a video game. And so that seems to be the hit. All of my students, it seems like, that whenever I ask them, well, what do you want to do? Whenever you get your education all the way, and what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And I'd say 90% of them are going to be video games. They want to create and make video games. And there might be, another 10% that want to become veterinarians, but definitely it's really, really popular for that creative side, being able to make something, especially with technology. And this little picture here, this is back when my oldest son he's probably about 14 in that one. We had done stream studies all through the summer, and with the co-op, our local homeschool co-op, and at the end they could decide whatever they wanted to do related to what we studied with our stream studies all through the summer. And some of them did insect collections and did all kinds of different things. Well, my 2 boys, what they wanted to do was work with computer graphics. So what you're seeing here is my son, he created a crayfish model because we had a crayfish in all summer long for them to do observations from. And so all that observing, he had learned the behaviors. So he used Blender, created a computer 3D graphic and animated it so it had stalking behaviors and he animated the get away, where they would flip their tail and go backwards, get away from you. My other son, who would be on the computer over here, but the picture didn't come out quite so good, he created the little trunk that opened up and did bubbles. I think he was 9 at the time. He had little animated bubbles coming out of it. So very much on the creative side. Now, let me just check to see. Raise your hand. There's some tools right above where you see our names. And what I'm wanting you to do is click on that one that's got the hand raised. I want you to put your hand up and keep your hand up if you've got kids like that. Do your kids just love to create? There we go. Got a couple of you. Now, some of you that didn't raise your hand, tell me a little bit more about your kids if you didn't raise your hand. Do they love? It might be. I don't know. I'm an artist myself, so I've always been a creator type. So it could be genetic. Okay, so at least almost half of you are kind of in that range, and some of you might be in here that are, maybe your kids are already grown. There we go. So that's good. We've got a good number. I think you're going to find Captivate is a great tool for them. There we go. You're going to find it's a great tool for them. Even the kids that aren't so much, if you've got kids that are logical, that want to go into just the programming side of things, this is going to be great for getting them started for understanding some of the programming, because you can take Captivate and you can go above and beyond the surface layer of the tools, and you can script, and you can make games a lot like what you see, not the 3D graphics type of games, but 2D graphics types of games, not the arcade style, but we're talking about educational kinds of games, and I'll show you some examples of those in a little bit. Okay, so some other things that are handy that my kids like to do: computer games, interactive activities. My daughter was really big into YouTube. She's still, even to this day, she's now married, she has a daughter, and her YouTube channel is still very active. Just because of all the videos that she posted, and people are still discovering it. Now with Captivate, you can create and you can upload to YouTube. So if you've got kids that love to do YouTube stuff, this will also output to YouTube. And you could do recorded presentations. So if you have it to where at the end you want your students to put together a presentation, sort of a speech kind of thing, but this one will let them record it. Then you've got it permanently. One thing about a speech where they're just standing up in front of your family as an audience, or maybe at the end of the year there's a speech where they're standing up in front of a local co-op or something, it's gone unless you happen to catch it with a camera. But if you have them create their presentations in Captivate, then you've got it forever, and you can output it. It can go out to your friends and family, and it's really, really nice. So I think creative kids and computers are a natural to be put together. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. I've given you a little bit of my kids' background. And when I first had gotten into doing a lot of the creating digital tools for my kids, it was because I had one in particular that we had in K-12 because he loved computers so much. And then Arkansas doesn't do high school. And even before he got to the high school, by 8th grade, he'd done everything that they had built. This was quite a few years ago. And I realized, okay, well, K-12 is not going to work anymore. And I knew after having 3 or 4 years of working so much with computer and interactives, he was going to be really bored with about anything else. And so I got involved with a project called Virtual Homeschool Group. And just for short, it's called VHSG. That's Virtual Homeschool Group. And it's a Moodle. And it's really what it is we homeschool parents can all get together and we can offer free courses. And we have the same environment that we're in here right now, the Blackboard Collaborate. We've got that. So if you happen to want to teach anything, contact me afterwards and we'll set you up and you can run a course. All right, so what happens though is there wasn't anything that you could just go out and buy. There wasn't anything for online that you can buy for general science or biology or whatever. It was so brand new 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago when I got involved that you had to make your own material for your online students. You weren't in the same room with them. Everyone was logging in on the computer. It's the same environment as you have here. So you had to build something to be able to present with. Now the first thing I tried was Flash. Matter of fact, I just realized that probably I'm going to take whiteboard tools or I'm going to get some surprises here. There we go. Okay, now the first thing I tried was Flash. And loved the capabilities that Flash could be, but oh, the learning curve, oh wow. And I was just so busy between homeschooling 4 kids and then teaching online classes as a volunteer through Virtual Homeschool Group. And I would only really get 2-week holidays because even during the summer I was teaching. And so I would learn just enough to make a little something in that 2 weeks, but then I wouldn't know enough to build the rest of the stuff that I needed. So I went through a couple of years of this over and over again. I would get my break, I would learn a little something, I could build a little something, but couldn't get far enough to really build it with everything I needed. Then it happened again. And to give you a little idea, that is, you know, that game that, for those of you that got here a little early, the game that you played with the Strata game, originally I built it in Flash, and this is a tiny little bit of what I had to do to create that game. I had to type all this stuff in. You can see the little scroll bar, and the little scroll bar shows you that there's a good bit more to go. Now, I realized, okay, I just don't have time. And I love Flash, it's fantastic, but I needed something just a little faster, a little easier, not so high a learning curve. Plus, I was hoping to eventually get it to where other volunteers could come on board and build interactive stuff instead of just being something along the line of video for our At Your Own Pace course. And so, from Flash, I had heard that Adobe also had an e-learning suite, and that's where I had gotten my first taste of Captivate. Captivate was one of the many tools that was in it. The downside, though, to the e-learning suite was that it was about $700. Yes, I really did spend money, $700 to get that. But it's one of those things where I found that I loved to teach online. I love to create e-learning, and because of the love for it, I said, well, this is a long-term investment. I'm going to go for it. Then Captivate got to where, because of Flash and Apple wouldn't let Flash plug-in go into the browsers on mobile devices. So then suddenly Flash really wasn't, there was a block to be able to get Flash on, at least at that point in time. Now they've found some workarounds now. You actually can get Flash games. As a matter of fact, you might not have realized that the Angry Birds is actually created with Flash, and that's been one of the #1 sellers for a while. But now they have it to where Captivate can output with HTML5. So not only can it play on desktops, but it can also play on mobile devices using HTML5. Now let's see, let me go ahead and slow down a little bit. And there we go. Yeah, we're just getting up, mostly talking about the price, so we're getting to that point now. Then the most recent development, I guess a year, maybe 2 years ago, is they started offering subscription. And that meant that instead of this big $700, and I know for our project where we've got other parents that are volunteering to teach, we never could have provided the professional level e-learning tools to them at this price, especially considering they might volunteer for a year and then they'd be gone. And we just couldn't provide $700 copies for everybody. But subscription, much more doable. If you do a year long, it's just $19 per month. If you feel like, okay, I want to really test it out before I commit to a whole year of getting it, well, you can get it month by month for $29. I can't remember if it's $29.99. It might be $19.99. You know how they love those 99s. And you can do it month by month for that until you're sure. And then once you're sure that you want to get it, then you can get the other one. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had a lot of people going into lag all of a sudden. And this we could do for our volunteers that wanted to come along and wanted to teach. For the period of time that they're building their courses, we can provide something that's $19.99 per month while they're building. And then when they're not building anymore, we could just stop them off with a subscription. So it worked out great. Now, I've told you up front how much it costs. Now you got to figure out, okay, well, what can it do? First off, before we get going, I want you to realize this is what the professionals use. Since I've gotten into e-learning, I've gotten into a lot of the circles where all the pros get together that create e-learning. These are the people who create the e-learning. They sell them to colleges. They'll sometimes sell them directly to families. They'll sell them to schools. The pros are using Captivate, or there's a couple other competitors. There's Articulate and a couple other ones, but I really think Captivate is definitely the premier one. It's definitely the best. And it's actually not as expensive, oddly enough, because the Articulate doesn't have a month by month. You have to buy it just like with this one, and I think it's like $1,500 for Articulate to be able to get it, and that's just for one of the things. You usually have to buy a couple other packages, so it's really, really much more affordable too. Let me go ahead and take a look here. Let's see, but if you do your subscription, imagine you lose your uploaded work, right? Just in the trial. Now, if you do the trial and you create something during the trial version, they do have it. If you don't get a subscription, it'll have a due date on it, and then the trial, I think it's like 30 days after you create it. And then it won't work anymore. But if you get subscription, no limits. You can, everything that you want. And if after the trial, if you've had a full version and you've saved something, if you stop your subscription, like let's say, okay, you do the trial version, and then you go ahead and open up anything you made in the trial version, resave it so that it's forever, it's not in a trial anymore. Then if you stop having your subscription the third month, everything you create will continue to work. So if you stop using your subscription, it doesn't keep your stuff from working. You just have to leave a little caveat of the trial version. During the trial version, that one is set on a due date, and then it will not work after the due date. But after that, everything that you make, so subscriptions can be for the months that your kids are building or that you're building. And then if you feel like, okay, I'm going to actively be able to build in the summer, but I'm going to be too busy during the school year. Well, if you're a parent, just do the $29.99 for your 3 months in the summer when you can feel like you can build. Or if your kids are building, you can have it to where your subscription turns off and on as your kids get to the project phase. So you might do it to where the kids are doing research for a month and really learning the content. And then they take a month to build something that's a project. And then you could turn it on for them during the time that it's the project. So lots of different ways you can control your costs, get it to fit your budget. And it's per computer, so you don't have to run it for each of your kids. So it won't have to be $19.99 for every one of your children. It's going to be per computer. And you can run it up to 2 computers per subscription. So if you've got 2 computers in your household, you're $19.99, you've got it on 2 computers, and your 2 kids can be working simultaneously on it. So that's not bad. Okay, now let's see what it can do. All right, we've already done the strata order for some of you earlier arrivers, but I know we have some that just came in a little bit. So I'm going to post a couple of links so they can try that. And for those of you that did the strata order, I will also post another link so you can do something a little different. Okay, hold on a second. I'll get the strata order first. Now, the strata order game is a drag and drop activity that I created for my general science students in my online classroom. And here's one for those of you that have already tried the strata order. This is one that I created for the advanced biology students. So whether you take the top link or the bottom link, all you have to do is just click on it, and they'll give you a chance to try some of the drag and drops. So for the strata order one, what you're trying to do is take the clues that you see in the 3 stacks and figure out what should be at the bottom and what should be at the top and everything that's in between. And of course, if you're in my class for general science, we would have had a whole lesson about strata and index fossils and dinosaurs and paleontology. And so they get a little bit of an advantage in that they've learned a little bit about the background to it. But this gives you a chance to do it. There we go. And then the second one, that one is a spleen labeling activity. And the first page will let you study. And then when you've studied, click the little button, and then it will take you to the drag and drop activity. So then just give it a try. Just drag and drop. There you go. Popped off the mic a second. Let Margarita catch up a little bit. There you go. Now you might be thinking, oh, you know, this is pretty cool. My kids would love to build this. They can learn some sort of content, just get their graphics a little bit. Let me go ahead and get their graphics a little bit, and then create this themselves. And I'll show you how easy it is. We're going to spend a few seconds. You're actually going to see how one is built. This actually might be the best time for that. Let me go ahead and start up my Captivate. You get a chance to see what the interface looks like and see how easy it is to build a drag and drop. The drag and drop is certainly not the only thing it could build, but it's my favorite. I love building the drag and drop activities, and the kids love to do the drag and drop activities, so they're a big hit. So I figured that was a good place to start. Okay, give me just a second here. I'm going to make my Captivate a little smaller so that you won't have your bandwidth quite so big. All right, I'm going to do something called screen sharing. All right, you're actually going to get to see Captivate. I'm going to check to make sure everybody's bandwidth can handle it. Hopefully everybody's can. So far, so good. Okay, so this is the Captivate. Go ahead and let me know when you can see the whole screen from top to bottom. With the online classroom, it kind of has to fill the lines in for a little bit. So go ahead and let me know if you can see the whole thing. Looks like so far there's, let's see, looks like probably almost everyone could see it. I don't see any lag on the application sharing. So let me know if you can't see it though. But this is the interface. You can see it's a lot like PowerPoint in the sense that you've got little thumbnails off on the side. This is my title slide right here. To create this little title, all I had to do is just take this little tool right here and just click and then put that on there, and I could do the text. You got all kinds of controls. So here I could change the font, and I could change the size. I can change what style it is. Right now it's on the style that makes it looks like it's carved in a little bit with some white paint into the carving. I thought that was kind of nice on the wood. Down here is the timeline. And this one here won't have a very extensive timeline because there's no voice in this one, but if you create a presentation where you add voice to it, it can get to be quite a long timeline. You can time when things show up, and when things disappear, you can create animations with it. I'll just show you real quick how you do an animation. You click on the object that you want to animate. Let's say we want this to animate in. Oops, sorry about that. I forgot to turn off the phone. It'll stop after 4 rings. All right, you click on that. And then if you, let me turn on, hold on a second while I turn on the window for, this one was kind of spur of the moment. I didn't expect that I was going to go into the effects panel, but I think this is a fun one to add in. All right, so here's that object right there for the effects. Now I don't know if you'll be able to see. Okay. Sorry, that's my mom. Like I said, I should have turned off the phone and turned it down. Okay, now I don't know if you can see this. Can you see are you able to see the windows? Sometimes you can in Captivate and sometimes you can't. So I'm just checking to see if you can see them or not. But if you can't see them, what it's going to have on there will be different kinds of actions that you could have. You could have that zoom in, you could have that zoom out. Yes, it is, exactly. So zooming in, zooming out, you can have it spinning, you can have all kinds of different things. And it tells you which of the things will be compatible with mobile devices and which things are only going to work on the desktop, so you could pick. Now, what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and get us right into the drag and drop part. I've already created some graphics and I've already brought them into the library. And we're going to create a little game where kids can practice sums of 10. So you know those like 1 plus 9 is 10, 2 plus 8 is 10. So a little game that you can create yourself. You can have an older sibling create it for a younger sibling, or even somebody who's working to master it. Kids that are working on sums of 10, they can probably handle the drag and drop because it's not that hard to do. So what I've got over here are some images that I just created in a simple graphics program. As you can see, that's not very fancy. And I created them in a graphics program, and then I imported them in. You can either drag and drop them and bring them onto the board here, or you can use these little folders to import them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select them, and then I'm going to drag and drop them on, which I might have to do with a different tool rather than my pen. So let me see if I can get them. I have to do them one at a time. Oh, sorry. This is one time I ought to have had kept my mouse here handy. There we go. I've got a pen tablet. Sometimes a pen tablet is a little sluggish in picking up. There we go. Let me switch over to, there we go. I'll just use a different tool. You won't have this sluggishness on with having a mouse. It's just my pen tablet is getting a little tired. Okay, I'm going to basically bring each of these in. So images, if you've got at least one of the kids in your family that loves to create images, they will have a blast providing images for these. And if you don't have anyone in your family that's particularly good at graphics, there's all kinds of stuff out there on the internet that can be used, especially if you're just going to use it at home. You don't have to worry as much about licensing stuff whenever you're just going to use it for personal use. All right, I got one more that I'm going to bring in. All right, now I'll get a little bit faster now that I can move more quickly with my tablet tool. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to create a sums of 10. And let me go ahead and 10, 5, 2, 8. I'm going to put that. I've already planned out what I want to have in the middle. So 10, 5, 2, 8. That's this one. All right, and the other one is 8, 9, 7, 4. 8, 9, 7, 4. There it is. All right, now I'm going to put these over here. These are going to be objects that are going to be dragged into place. Just going to move them off over here, and this is where the students will be picking them up from too, just kind of scattering them out on the side. I don't want them to overlap too much. It doesn't matter as much if they do or don't, but to me it's a little easier for the kids to pick up. All right, so I'm going to position them. Now, sums of 10, this little game is going to go where they have to match color and they have to match numbers that will make a 10. Right now, these will be the two places that will be locked in place. And in fact, I'm actually going to lock them down. We go back to the timeline. And I'm going to locate these two. I'm going to lock this one. So if you ever get to where I can't do something because I keep picking it up by accident, you can lock them. All right, now let me show you how quick and easy it is. All right, now I'm going to create some little points for which they're going to be dropped down. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is just do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the corrected answers in there first. So I'm going to make copies of these. And this is what you'll do with each of them. You've got drag objects, and you need to create target objects. You could usually just simply make copies of the original object and then paste them, and then use those all as target objects. All right, so the first group that I had, those are what's going to be dragged and dropped. The second group is going to be target. All right, now let's go ahead and start putting these in the correct places so that we know that they're going to end up where they need to go. So let's see. 8 and 2. Let me see if I can find 2 off the side. There we go. It's probably going to be the correct answer there. And 6, 4. All right, there you go. Now, I've carefully planned it out so that they actually do have legitimate answers. So whenever I created the graphics, I did a little bit of thinking ahead of time. And that's a good activity for your older kids to do whenever they're making something like this for younger kids. And 3. All right, and then 7 and 4. And I'm not going to take the time to get them perfectly lined up, just for sake of time that we've got right here in this environment today. All right, here we go. All right, now 9 and 1. And 1 here. 10, 2, 5. Okay, now I've got them all pretty much positioned. Just don't really want overlap. Okay, now these are going to be the targets. So we've positioned our targets into place. Now we're ready to actually create our drag and drop. All right, we're going to go to this little drag and drop interactive right here. If you are doing this and you don't see drag and drop, just go under the window control, which you can't see on a Mac because it's above here, but it'll be a little toolbar on the top. Click on window and then select drag and drop to show. There's a little wizard right here. We'll start the wizard and I'll show you how easy this is. Even young kids can do this pretty successfully. Okay, I'm going to scoot this down so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, you see the same board that we had here. What we're going to do is we're just going to select the objects that are going to be dragged. And then I'm going to click next. And then I'm going to select the objects that are going to be, oops, I didn't expect that it was going to do the locked objects. So let me go ahead, or maybe it's not. I'm trying to see if it's got locked objects. Okay, it's just those things that are around it. Then I'm going to click next. All right, and now what I'm going to do is just match them up. So I'm going to look for the one that has 3 on the top and 0. So basically what I'm telling the computer is this object needs to end up in this location. I'll move this little failure text out of the way. And then I'm going to click on the next one, and I'm going to point it to where its final target is supposed to be. And that's here. And then this one, 7, let's see, yellow 7 on the top. There we go. And then this one, I guess it's more of an orange, 061. And this is even a good activity for your younger kids, just to observe the numbers. All right, and then the 7 on top, pink 7, there we go. And then 4, and then 8 on the top. And let me see, I think there's one more to go. 7 on the side, 4 on the top. And then I'm going to click finish. All right, and we're just about done. Let's take a look at some of the options that we can do. Let me go ahead and just click on one of the targets. I'll show you some of the target options that you have. You can have it to where as soon as they let go of it when they're playing the game, as soon as they let go of it in this general area, it'll snap into place. You can do that. That's what anchor is. Or you can do the drop down and do absolute. And absolute is just wherever they drop it. It doesn't snap into place. It just, if they are a little bit off on the side, that's okay. So you can have a lot of different control. I'll set it back to anchor. All right, and you can have it to where they can redrag the object. So you can have it to where it's a little harder for them to play by not doing that. So once it's locked on, it won't let them pick it up again. So you can make it a little harder. I'm going to go off mic a second because we've got a lot of lag. Okay, sorry about not noticing that before then. I was so focused over here. Okay, and then let's see, and you can have audio if you want to. You can do play audio, and you can select your audio file. So if you want it to make a silly sound, you can have it make a silly sound whenever they drop it into place or when they click on it. You can have infinite number of attempts, or you can set it for a certain number of attempts. So if you want it to where it's harder, where they have to get it right the first time, or if you want it to have it right the second time or third time, you can control it. Usually I'll set mine to infinite. So usually you've got it. And if you want to have some different ones, this down here, I'm going to just submit. When they're done, they'll hit that submit button. But you might want to have it to where they can do undo or reset, so you could turn those on. So undo will set back the last thing they did, and the reset will set all of them back. And let's see. Oh, yep. All right, and then you can even, if any of you happen to be using a learner management system like Moodle, you can actually include it so it'll send scores to learner management systems like Moodle. I figure not a lot of homeschoolers do that. A few do, but I'll let you know that it was there. Now, some of the things that you could do whenever you click on the drag objects for control, let me go up here. You've got some special effects that you can do. You can have it to where they glow. So whatever is being picked up and moved, it'll glow. You might have noticed that on the Strata Order game. When you picked it up, did you notice how it glowed whenever it would be picked up and moved around? You can turn that on if you want to. You could also do zoom in. It makes it look like it kind of gets bigger whenever you're picking it up, and then when you drop it, it goes back down to regular size. You could do zoom in. Those are nice. And just all sorts of controls. Now this one right here happens to be a 1-to-1. So this one object can only go in one place. But it's quite possible with the drag and drops that you can have it to where one object can go in multiple places and it still be scored as correct. You can have it to where something has to be put in a certain order. They have to pick this tile or image up first, and they have to pick another image second, and then another one must be the third one. So things where they have to put stuff in order in a certain way, or picked up in a certain way, it has all sorts of variants on the drag and drop. So very, very powerful tool. And in a little bit, I'll let you play the finished game whenever we get a little bit further in. But I just wanted to show you how easy it is to do. It didn't take, it would have taken much less time for a student to do because I had to talk you through it. But once your kids know how to do it or you know how to do it, real quick and easy. It takes you far longer to just pick out your images than it does to create the drag and drop. And there's all kinds of tutorials out there on the internet. The blog page, I'll give you some resources. So all kinds of tutorials on how to do all the different variants on it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop application sharing for the moment. Just wanted you to see how easy it was. It's the main thing here. All right, now let me shuffle a couple things back around. And then we'll be good to go forward. Okay, so drag and drop. Now, drag and drop's not the only thing that it can do. Let me go ahead. Oh, actually, here's where I can actually let you try the game. Maybe this would be perfect timing. Okay, for those of you who have mobile devices, you can, if you've got a QR code reader, you could just point to that little QR code and you can try it on a mobile device. For those of you that need the desktop version, here's the link coming so you can actually play the drag and drop game. There you go. Click the link. I'm going to get quiet for a little bit while you get a chance to download it and give it a little try. Okay, just because we're very, very limited in time, I'm going to have to make sure we move forward pretty quick. But hopefully you got at least a couple of them in place so you get a feel for how you can do it. Hopefully you got a chance to try the undo and reset buttons and some of the different variations that are on there. So did everybody get a chance to at least drop a few of the drag and drops in place? Check to make sure we don't still have people downloading it. Okay, excellent. So you get an idea of what it's like, and it's really fun on a mobile device because I don't know, that tactile of having your finger moving stuff around, it's so fluid, it feels so good. The first time I started doing a drag and drop on the iPad, I got my very first iPad at Mother's Day. And I finally got a chance to really sit down and play around with it. Oh, this feels so good. This is so fun. It's fun on a desktop too, but you just feel like you're in touch with the cards when you're moving them around. It's a blast. Okay, now, the next thing that students can do, there's drag and drop now. Now you can actually have your students create software tutorials. Have you ever had it to where your older child knows how to do some software, you don't know how to do it, and you've got a younger child that wants to learn how to do it? Well, one of the things you could do is have your older child use Captivate to create a tutorial. And what it does is it can do screen recording so that it screen records them working on the software. That is excellent. Anybody ever found a use for, man, I wish I could just record what's on my screen so that somebody else can see it, especially for tech support, where you're trying to communicate with a tech support person what your computer's doing and they don't quite understand what you're seeing and it's hard to describe it. Well, you could just do a screen recording. So screen recording is actually what Captivate started out doing, because originally it was a software called RoboDemo, and it would record software tutorials. And now, of course, it does so much more. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm afraid my time might run out. Let me just go ahead. What I'm going to have to do is just kind of tell you, but you'll be able to have I'm going to leave you with a link so you can try these in your own time afterward. But for lack of time, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the different versions you can have. So there's an example in the set that you're going to find the link to. And this one's for teaching how to use a particular tool in Photoshop. And you can actually create a show me, a try it, and a test me. The show me is almost like sitting back and watching a video. And that's great for getting started. So you basically will do screen recording, and the person will talk. It'll record the voice of the person that's creating the software demo. And then the person who's playing it back, then they just sit back and they watch it. But there's also the try it version that you can do. It's all built into the software. It does it all by itself. And what it will do is you can set up in there and record it and then come in and then decide what are going to be little hints for the person. And the person actually has to do it. So they'll try what they just saw. So this is a video version. This is basically almost like a little test of if they learned it, but it comes with all kinds of hints. So if they don't click on the right thing, then the software will come up and say, no, that's not it. And then the person who creates it, they can decide what they want for a hint so that the person can figure out, okay, here's a little hint going the right way. So this is great for software creation, teaching kids how to do software. And then the test me, if you've got an LMS, it will actually, well, even if you don't have an LMS, this one actually will give a score. And it will report at the very end what the score was. So if you don't have an LMS, you could just tell your kids, okay, when you're done, I want you to grab a screenshot of your score, and that's going to be what I'm going to use for grading you. So once it's created, then you've got a really great way to be able to get something scoreable. You don't have to stand over and say, okay, show me that you know how to do it. You can actually have them do the test me, and the scoring is all done by the computer. So this is really good if you've got a family member that just loves software, and they just wish that they could do a demo and not have to do it all over and all over and all over again every time somebody wants to know how to do something. Great for that. All right, now the next thing, showing you some of the things that you can do. You can publish it whenever you do it. This one here is a presentation style. So you've seen it could do drag and drop. You've seen that it could do software tutorials. A lot of what I create are presentations for the students that they can watch in the At Your Own Pace courses. And it's just like making a little video on this part. And stuff can show up and go away. You know, for instance, these things will come in one at a time, and it's got my voice and everything. But aside from that, here's some of the cool stuff you can have in there. You can turn on the table of contents so that it will run with the table of contents. Students then can see what the slides are about. And you could even do them in grouping. If you notice on this one right here, oops, I'm trying to get the pointer to go the other way. There we go. If you notice that little triangle, that's a little twirl down, and you could even have it to where there's little subgroups so that if the person wants to see more details, they can do a little twirl down and see all the little sub-slides that are inside of it. And as they watch it, they get little check marks showing that they've watched that part. So if you've got a kid that loves to jump around, they can jump around and they can see which ones they haven't visited yet. And there's also, you can turn it on so that there's a little button to clear all the check marks. So if they want to clear their check marks, they can. Now, here's a really cool thing. If they watch this on the desktop, and then they pick up their let's say they're doing an activity you've assigned to them, it's already been created, so they're on the participant side, they're playing it. And let's say, okay, we gotta go, dentist appointment, grab up your iPad, and you can finish that off while we're waiting. Well, guess what? As long as they've got internet access, whenever they come in, they can reload it from wherever you've got it put on the internet, and then it will actually remember where they left off. So if they watch this many things while they were on the desktop, it'll ask them, do you want to pick up where you left off? And it will actually show them what they've already seen on the desktop, and then they can continue from there. It's really, really cool. Some other things, if you do closed captioning, that's something you can do if you want to. And that's great for kids if you want to give them practice at spelling and typing in, some typing practice. You can have them do closed captioning. And it's got a nice little tool, really easy to do. It'll play it back, and they can stop it and hear little bits of the conversation, or they can use their script if they've got in digital form, copy paste the script in and little bite-sized pieces, and then it can play. Or if you have any family members that are learning to read, this is a great way for them. You can create a book, create books for your kids. Just scan in the pictures from the books or take a photo, and then you could read it to them, and you can put the words as you read it down here, all kinds of different things. And the closed captioning has another advantage in that that you can create, you can use a search box. So if there's a word that, let's say the student says, oh, what was that about the spleen? I need to find something about the spleen, or whatever's in it. They could type in the word for the search and hit this, and it will make only the slides that have that word on it. Great as a study tool because it filters away anything that doesn't have that word in the closed captioning. So very, very powerful tool. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I think that's got it. Stop, pause, rewound, just like a video does. You can have it to where it can go through, and that's great for them to be able to pause it and take notes. Okay, going forward. Okay, oh, and I jumped the gun on the fact that you could do the HTML5. So you can publish it out so it'll work on a mobile device. And also what I had mentioned about you can start it on one device and then get on the other device. It knows right where they left off. And let's see if I've got, okay, I think pretty much that's covered that content. I don't watch my time. You can publish to YouTube. I've already mentioned it, so we won't spend too much time here. Now, if you have interactive activities, those you need to take out before you publish to YouTube. So you can have a version that has interactive stuff, and then a part that just has the presentation. So if you do like to publish up to YouTube, just keep the presentation portion for that, because YouTube can't do the interactives. It's just not an interactive environment. You can do branching stories. How many of your kids love those stories where you get to decide, you'll read a couple of pages, you'll get to some critical juncture in the story, and you get decisions to make, and if you decide to do a certain action, you go to another page, those little branching stories that they have. This is capable of doing those kinds of things. So if you want to have it where it starts on a certain slide, And then they get to pick where they want to go. It's just, and like websites too. You know how you on a website you've got all these links, you can go out to other parts. Well, same thing there. You can create websites with the tool. Matter of fact, I know several people, this is what they use to build their website. They use Captivate. And then you can have all kinds of branching points that goes out. So, and matter of fact, last year with my Storymakers class, this was 5th grade students that were doing creative writing. One of the assignments was to create a branching story. So lots of fun. Another cool thing that it could do is you can do pre-test so that the students can, you can test whether your students are ready for basic material, average material, advanced material, and depending on how they do the pre-test, it can take them to one of those branches. You can even remediate if they don't score high enough in that branch. You can have a little branch that's specifically for remediation, and then everything can lead to a score in the end. So all kinds of things that you can do. Let's see, and then Adobe Education Exchange is where I post mine. So if you do find, oh, this Captivate, it's going to be great, you end up getting it. Everything that I make that I'm allowed to share, usually everything that I make it so that there's no copyright kinds of things. I don't make stuff directly from a textbook. I'll make my own thing from it. So I can share everything that I make. You can go to my Adobe Education Exchange, and there's all kinds of school-oriented K-12 topics there. And since I've taught so many different levels, I've got stuff for almost every level in math. I've got stuff for reading and writing. I've got stuff for science. Let me go ahead and get my link. If you go right here, I think I probably have 60 at this point, about 60 Captivates that you can download. And you can play them. And if you decide you don't want to get Captivate, you can also go there and find the finished files that will play just as Swifts or HTML5. So even without the Captivate, if you just wanted to play around with something that somebody else created with Captivate, those are fine. You don't have to have Captivate to play a finished file that somebody else made. If you do have Captivate, though, you can download my actual Captivate file, and then you can customize it and have what you want in it. You can add stuff to it, have your students add stuff to it, and you can take stuff away from it. So everything that I make, I share usually every weekend. I'm uploading 6-7 new things. So by the time another year's gone by, it'll be really full of stuff. As far as learning it, you always want to make sure when you get a software, you're not going to be stuck trying to figure it out all by yourself. There are all kinds of resources. One thing about Adobe is they never leave you stuck. You buy their software, they've got all kinds of support. They've got free webinars, usually once every week or so. They've got webinars. Sometimes they'll even have a whole blast of them. You have multiple ones each week. So all kinds of different things. They've got articles, free training seminars. They've got all kinds of things on their blog that you can download. They're pre-made, so you can learn from them. Quarantine was the most recent one that they put on. They had professional e-learners or e-developers create Quarantine. And then they made it available for people who use Captivate, so you can see how the professionals do it. And they do that once every year or two. They'll hire up a professional, and because this is a tool that the pros use, but they know that there's a lot of people learning it. So that gives you a way to go, oh, look. And every time that I've seen these, I've always learned something from it. I go, oh, I didn't think about that. I see how that could work. And they've got tutorials there. It's all kinds of stuff on the Adobe Captivate blog. Let me go and start popping in some of these web links. Let me get it. This one is to the blog. That's probably the best place to go to get it. And specifically, if you want to at the blog, let me do a copy here. I'm not multitasking real well, I can see. All right. They pull all their tutorials together in one place. There's their tutorials. You can also go to YouTube and sign up to their channel, and that's where they post all their tutorials as well. That one there lets you see all of their training that they do, and there's a ton. They do training all the time. If you want example projects, like I was telling you a second ago about the quarantine, there you go. You click on that one. That will take you to all the ones you can download and be able to do. And they usually have the seminars that have happened in the past, they'll record them. So just tons of resources on how to learn how to do it. And then there's a lot of professional people, professional groups that you can go to that are professional e-learners or e-learning developers. So if you feel like, oh, this might be something I want my child to think about as a career, or maybe they will decide they want it as a career, or maybe you want it as a career. There's all kinds of places you can go where professional rapid e-learning developers go, and this is a pro tool. So you'll go there and you'll find all kinds of people that are using it to make these professionally. All right, and then the quarantine, I think I'll hold off until the end just because of the time, because you can go off. Actually, we're just about there. Okay, maybe I'll do that from here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to leave us off where you can actually try out some of these. Okay, now at Virtual Homeschool Group, which is where I teach online, we've got a little thing where we post the things that have been built and we just want people to test it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the link to that. And so these are going to be things that are going to be used this coming year in the classes. So I'm going to give you the link, copy link. And even where you go to, actually, let me maybe separate it from the other ones. Some examples. Okay, there, I'm going to have it labeled there so you can tell what link is going in there. So the examples from Virtual Homeschool Group. Now a lot of those will have sounds, so that's why it might be a little bit better to do it after you head on out. But maybe take the link enough to bookmark it. And what that is a collection of ones that we are testing and going to be using this next year. And what you'll do whenever you go in and you give it a try is you'll actually click on it. Or if you have a mobile device, you'll have pages that will have a little image from the interactive. It'll tell you what the interactive name is. It'll show you a QR code, and the whole thing is clickable. So just browse through, and you see something that's interesting, you can click on it if you're on a PC, or use a QR code reader on your mobile device. Or just take that link even from your mobile device and just try it out on your mobile device. So we've got all kinds of activities for math. We've got activities for science. Definitely try the sentence diagramming and try the chem game, that one. And that's really a really cool game. If your kids love those types of games where they've got an environment to explore and they collect inventory, and that inventory is going to be used to solve puzzles. I used Captivate to build a level from Kamikaze to see if it could do it, and it did great. So I highly recommend looking up in the chemistry section for the chem game. You'll find that one especially fun. Now, that's that link that I gave you. And I'm going to go ahead and probably wrap it on up here, so you've got a few minutes before, so you can head off to the next session. Or if you're not heading another session, you can go ahead and give some of these a try. All right, so I will officially bring it to a close. Hopefully everybody has got a good feel for what Captivate is able to do, and you've got some examples to get to look at. Oh, you know, one thing I didn't do is I didn't post where you can go get it. If you do decide to get it, don't want to miss that part. If you do decide to get it, you need to go to this location here, and that's for finding out the subscription. Or if you go to the regular, if you just type in Adobe Captivate and you go to the Captivate page, they'll have a buy. You can click on buy, and then it'll give you the option for the subscription. Always get the subscription. Don't get the CD, because they're actually not going to do CDs anymore. You don't want to get something they're not going to support later. So you always want to choose the subscription. There you go. And if you are, it says link not available. Which one? Was it the one for the examples or for the Adobe? The last one. Okay, hold on a second. I will locate it for you. I should have checked all my links. I figured that one wouldn't have changed, but I guess it did. Let me go ahead and locate it for you. Adobe Captivate. If you have to go to another session, I understand it. You can contact me. Let me go ahead and go to the contact one so it shows up on the screen. There's my contact information. If you feel like you have to run, you can jot that down super fast and then contact me afterwards. I will. Adobe Captivate. Let me see if I can get to where it is. And it's Captivate 7. All right, try this one. It hasn't fully loaded for me, so I haven't been able to confirm it, but that should be it. You can download the trial. It's a 30-day trial, but remember that the trial does have a little bit of a disability in that it will expire. But once you have used the trial, just reopen those projects if you buy it, and then publish it again. It'll get rid of the expiration that comes from the trial version. So you can download the trial version. If you click the buy button, once you click it, it'll give you all the different purchase options. You want the subscription one. All right, so hopefully we'll have some people who love Captivate, and keep in touch with me. You can find me all over the place. You can play this back and get some of my contact information, and I use it all the time. I'm all through the week and all through the weekend I'm creating stuff, so I'm sure I can help you out a good bit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.